Hi everybody. Okay, today I want to work on some of our cutting skills. So since we're at home and I'm going to have you work with your child on cutting, there are some things we kind of want to go over. So I always tell my kids that whenever we always cut with our thumbs up. So that means that when you are holding your paper, you can see your thumb, it's up. And when you're using your scissors and you're cutting, see how my thumb is up. Not like this. Some of my friends will try to turn and try to cut like this. Our thumbs have to be up. So that when I say thumbs up when we cut, that's what I'm talking about. You have your thumb on the paper so you can see it, and you have your thumb in your scissors and it's looking at you. So you see both of our thumbs. See? Thumbs up when we cut. Okay. So what we're going to do is parents are going to take a piece of paper and you're going to go ahead and for starting out cutting, we want to make it as easy as possible as basically opening and closing their scissors. So I'm just taking my paper and I'm going to cut a thin strip. And I'm using construction paper because it's a little bit thicker so it stays up instead of paper that will flop over very easily. So I cut a very thin strip, and then you can take a marker and we're going to draw a line on our paper. So you can start off this way, or you can just have them take their scissors and have them just practicing cutting off the strip. So if I were you, I would start off with just having them cut, and see, I cut it thin enough that when they use their scissors to cut, it cuts all the way through one motion. So they're not having to cut and scoot, open, cut, and scoop. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now we're just going to cut a thin strip on the construction paper, and then you're going to make sure they have a thumb up holding the paper, thumb up on their scissors. And all they're going to do is open and close. They're practicing their opening and closing. Okay, so here's my scissors. So I have my thumb in the small hole, and I have my other fingers in the other hole. Now, some kids will put all their fingers in there. That's perfectly fine. Obviously, my hands are bigger than a kid's, so I put one of my fingers out right here. And if that's what your child chooses to do, that's what they can do too, because it will help with closing it also. And so then just practice sitting there, making sure that their thumbs, both of their thumbs are up. And they just cut open wide with the scissors and then cut all in one motion. And this will help them get their strength in their hand from opening and closing the scissors. And then all they're going to do is just sit there and cut. Open, move over, close. They'll move their hand down when they get closer. Open, close. Open, close, open, close, open, close. And have them do that. And just make sure you're watching to make sure that they are keeping their thumbs up. Okay, sometimes if you look away, sometimes you will see that they'll get out of the habit, or they'll let go or not hold their scissors. When they put them back in, they could hold it this way, which is not correct. You got to make sure your thumb is in the smaller hole, or you'll see them turn their hands. So make sure we are having both thumbs up when we cut. And I sometimes will say that over and over again whenever we're cutting at school. I'll say, remember, thumbs up, and they'll say, when we cut. So that way it's a response. So you say thumbs up, they say when we cut. So you make sure that they're listening. So they'll just cut. And that's it. And that will practice and help them with their fine motor and their opening and closing of the scissors. Now, if your kid can do that perfectly fine and super easy, then we'll move on to something a little bit harder, which is when we have our paper and it is not as thin as the other one. So you can still cut it so they don't have a ton of paper in their hands. But as you can tell, this is thicker than my strip was. And so now what you can do is you can draw a line from the bottom going up. And see, I'm not having it go all the way through. So what we're teaching them is teaching them how to cut on a line. And I'm making my line not go all the way through because they're still getting used to the motion of opening and closing. So we want to make sure the lines are long enough that all they have to do really is close on the line. So then they'll sit here and they're practicing getting their scissors on the line. So when they're lining up, you'll have to talk to them about, okay, open your scissors, get it on the line, and I think it's on the line. I'm going to close slowly. Sometimes they'll get it there and they'll just want to cut right away. Well, when they do that, they're not paying attention to the line and they will get off the line. So I always tell them, line it up, slowly close. Line it up, slowly close. Line it up, slowly close. And see, I cut beside that line on that one, but that's okay. They're learning. So we just practice opening and closing. Opening and closing. And then you can tell them, look, you made a bunch of grass. Good job making the grass. Okay, so that helps them start learning to cut on a line. Now, if that's easy for them, then we go to the next step where my paper is bigger and my lines are going to get longer. And this is going to help them work on cutting, so opening and closing, and then the line is going to be longer that they're going to have to open again and close again. So that's going to work on opening, closing, opening, sliding up, and closing again. So that's something you want to teach them so that way they're not pulling their scissors off of the paper and having to realign it and start all back over again. So, as you can tell, this line is longer than the pair of scissors when I close it. So then you work on opening, lining up, closing slowly. Now, it's all the way closed. So then we talk to them about opening it back up, still on the line, and sliding up. And then they can close again. So sometimes you'll see them, they'll open, they'll close, and then they'll take their scissors out, which is okay, but then they have to open their scissors and find their line and then slide back up. So it just saves us a step. So tell them to open, line it up, close slowly, open slowly, and slide up. And then we're working on those, cutting those. So now we're working on a little bit longer line for them to practice opening, closing, opening, sliding up the paper, and closing again. All right. And another step, if that's super easy for them, then you can start with maybe a little bit of a curved line, because then they're going to have to work on turning their paper. So open, close, turn our paper. See how Miss Audrey is having to turn the paper? So then my scissors will start going on that line. So I just slowly cut and slowly turn and slowly cut. So I'm cutting on the line. Now that's a little bit more advanced. So for my 3-year-olds, the solid, let me cut another one so I can show you. So the thin strip of them just opening and closing is a great place to start. Now if they have that down, then we move on to the drawn lines, and where it's still only long enough that all they have to do is open and close. But this helps them practice cutting on a line. So that's your second step. which the 3-year-old should be able to do also. So just work on opening and closing on the line. And once they've mastered that and they made their cute little graphs, then really work on a longer line and then opening, closing, opening slowly and sliding up the line and cutting. And that is a great way to practice their cutting skills, and it's as simple as construction paper and a pen and some scissors. So try the first step with your child, just cutting that thin piece of construction paper and then having them just snip off opening and closing, and then go to the second step where it's drawing lines, but it's the length of the scissors, so all they have to do is open once and close on the line. And then you can graduate up to the cutting, opening, sliding, and cutting some more. Okay, so happy practicing with cutting with your scissors, and send me some pictures because I'd love to see how well they're doing. I'll see y'all later.